And we do a lot of our work within the context of our training at our center to make sure that outdoor time and gym time and kind of flexible free play time is really interactive.
I'm Glenn Herbert, and I'm an editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private schools to gain insights into their programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administrators. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
I think the incredible opportunity to actually work with the autism community is first and foremost. We work with individuals and their families. So it's not just about the students that come to our center, it's about the entire family. And we really pride ourselves in that. So the joy of meeting them in the mornings, the joy of actually sharing some of the excitement that happens in the day when they learn skills, I think that's first and foremost. But second, and probably equally important to that, is actually working with our incredible staff. So we have some enormously talented staff and very credentialed staff that work in this specialized sector. And I'm very honored to lead them in the capacity of what we do at New Haven. Probably the third is then working in the context of fundraising. I mean, we are a charitable organization in the context of also being a private school and really working within our community to have those philanthropists, those companies and corporations and individual donors really understand the value of contributing to a charity like ours so that we can run an incredible program like we do. I joined the center in 2017, and in the context of joining it, it was a very well-established organization at that stage. They had a structure, though, in place that was pretty prescriptive. So I think one of the things that I was most excited about was broadening how we service our clients. So we now offer more than just one-to-one care. We offer some of the group-based learning. We offer dyads and triads. And again, the inclusion of families was probably the biggest thing for me. Really making sure that when a family comes and makes sure that New Haven is the place for their particular student, that they're also seeing it as they're joining our family. Inclusive education is one of the complexities of life right now, in that an autistic individual should have the right to go to an inclusive environment, but doesn't always have their needs met. So centers like ours and schools like ours really do try and work hard to get the skills developed. And I think my joy, again, in joining this organization was broadening what that was, really seeing the value of what could be contributed within our community. And we hope that we grow every day by doing so. Well, as we say in most environments and in most contexts of jobs, no 2 days are the same. And certainly that's true at New Haven. I think the typical day, though, is inviting our families in the morning. We go out, we greet. Our senior staff are out there and making sure that we're welcoming our families and welcoming our students into our center. That's a very important part of just making sure that we know what's gone on before they arrive to us and making sure that there's connectivity with our community. During the day, I am in and out of classrooms because I do offer some of the clinical support and guidance of what is necessary, the educational framework, but I'm also meeting with families. I'm doing intakes. I'm introducing the school to new people, new funders, new donors, again, in the awareness of what we can provide to the autism community and those with developmental disability. So I think every day is different, but boy, do I love that. I'm someone who can multitask probably at the best of times, but I think it's also important to recognize that no 2 days being the same means there's no opportunity lost in creating a new opportunity for a new student to thrive. That's a really good question. And I think the real honest answer is it's very individualized. So depending on the age frame in which a student might come, we invite students as young as 18 months into our program as a preschool program, and they can go all the way through to adulthood. So again, when you come into us chronologically aged will determine part of that answer. But let's also look at it in the framework of saying, when someone comes to my center, I'm delighted to bring them in. We welcome them with open arms so that we can offer them the individualized care they need. But I'm also looking at the day they leave us. And I say that very honestly to families when they join our program, because I want them to always have the goal of naturalized and inclusive education as their ultimate goal. So don't get me wrong, we will keep children in our program every day if we could. But we're also realistic at the enormous cost and the variability of needs that certain individuals will learn. So We want to individualize a program, but we do it in a way that's very unique, I think, within the autism community, because we bring them into classrooms. So the traditional framework of a classroom exists with multiple staff and multiple students integrating together. But that's part of the joy and of the complexity of autism and how we support it, but also the joy of seeing the outcome that we would like to have happen for each individual client. So we do a little bit different, I think, than most private schools. You don't come in September and leave in June. You are a full year, 365-day plan, if you will, in the sense of service. We do have breaks, so don't get me wrong on that. But in the framework, you can come in and we have rolling enrollment as well, depending on the needs of the family or the funding that may be available to them at any time. And that's why it's so important to consider it individualized when you come into our program. So our efforts have been well serviced. When we know someone can graduate from our program, that's an incredible joy. But it's also very sad. And I think, we get very attached to the students that we support. We get attached to the families, as I've said. We believe New Haven is all about growing potential and changing lives. So when you come to us, we're committing to that. And we are committing to really having an impact on your life. So when it becomes distal, or we only see you on occasional, get-togethers, those things become a little bit more challenging. But it's incredible community to get involved in because we maintain connections. We are able to have that offset if a family's comfortable to do so, to have you welcomed back in to say hello, obviously being sensitive to COVID restrictions at the moment, but really sharing in the joy and the experiences that you have after us. And New Haven, again, in the uniqueness of some of the private school offerings right now, we offer consultation to families if they need it after the fact. So we have, a continuance of care after the child leaves our program if a family chooses to do so. And I think that helps. But yeah, pride, I would say, is the number one characteristic when we see someone actually graduate from our program. Well, that's a very interesting question. And I think the dynamics of, 20 and 30 somethings right now, which is the majority of our staffing, many of them will come in for somewhere between 2 and 5 years. That's a very common denominator in the context of our type of complex needs. We also need to recognize that they are credentialed, and many of them will often go on, hopefully within our system, but we also mentor people to go external within the autism community to graduate into more advanced titling. So it's not a teacher role necessarily, it's a therapist and instructor role. But yeah, about 2 to 5 years is generally what we look at within the context of New Haven staffing. So someone who lives the values of our school every day is actually our office manager. Danielle is one of the most incredible members of our team, and she is, if you will, the leader in force, as I call it, within our community. So although I am the executive director, everybody knows that Danielle's behind just about everything that goes on in our community. And she understands, again, in the context of our values, growing potential and changing lives. She's doing that every single day when she invites the students into her office. We have little treats behind her desk that she can come and they can share an opportunity or an engagement with her. But she's also the first point of call for many of the families as they contact us. And she is a wonderful representation of our agency to our community, and we'd be lost without her. We adore her. The relationship between alumni and current students is a wonderful one out of COVID circumstances. So we do an annual gala in which our alumni and our current students get to actively engage with one another. And that's a pretty incredible moment. Obviously, COVID has affected that right now, and we're respectfully not getting together socially, but they've had the opportunity of engaging now virtually. So we've done an autism awareness dance day, and I think hopefully some of you may have seen that, where we had the mayor and our MPP and our MP involved, but the alumni were also involved in that day. And I think where we can, we encourage them to stay active. We encourage them to stay connected and always know that they have somewhere to come back to if they want to just say hi or to get a little bit of extra support and guidance as they move forward. Awareness in the complexity of autism of those that are around us and those that have maybe similar or different experiences is sometimes challenging to analyze whether there is an impact from their community. But I think when we do our social event days and when we do have people come in, there is a sense of awareness that at least is emerging. Whether there's a direct impact, I'm not sure I can say that definitively because of the population we serve, but I do think it's fair to say that it encourages them to again recognize there's a safe place to always return to. And that's really our mantra. The opportunity of having a diagnosis is just that, a diagnosis. It's a label that we want families and we want students to put to the side. The potential that someone has can be enormous, and we are amazed generally every week, if not every day, of the growth that some of our students can make. And changing lives is exactly what we do every day, as they do to us, right? Our own lives are changed. And that's why we really feel that that tagline really represents our agency and the vision and mission, ultimately, in the shortest form, of what we want to do while we're in this service sector. Great question. The student that is drawn to New Haven Learning Center can be multifaceted. So I think you can be someone who needs a little bit of extra support because you may not be thriving in another learning environment and just need the structure and direct guidance that our type of program based in the scientific principles of ABA can offer. But you may also be someone who is heavily compromised by a diagnosis or a dual diagnosis. Again, remembering that our particular school goes all the way from 18 months preschool programming to adulthood. There are 3 core educational frameworks, if you will, in how we design our programs. And we welcome all abilities and all differentiations, I should say, of limitation. So we always say to an intake family, I meet every single one of them that wants to come to our center. I do make sure that I have a conversation with you that really does understand what your needs are and realistically says whether New Haven can meet that expectation. But I think in a shared view to what our organization can offer the community, we're pretty confident when we invite you to come in, and actually there's a difference obviously of registration versus actually being offered a position. But we do a pretty aggressive intake application to make sure we gather all the information that we can and make sure that our service is right for your child when we invite you into our program. A student that may not excel at our center long term, I would say, is one that really is successful in a mainstream education. And the reason I say that is I think there are some parameters where we can say, again, the label of autism doesn't necessarily mean that you learn in exactly the same capacity as everyone else. Diagnosis of autism, you met one person with autism, you've met literally one person with autism. And I want to make sure that families understand that that title or that label doesn't necessarily mean that a specialized school like New Haven for individuals with autism is the right fit. We, I think, hold again that very strong premise. If you can be successful with your natural and typical peers, we want you to be. But if you need that top up or a more intensive program, then we are the location for you. And if you need an extensive amount of support, we are definitely that center for you because we are prioritizing those perhaps that need more complex needs. So again, is there someone that wouldn't fit into our program? No, but would I caution around the length of time that you might stay in our program? Perhaps, right? And I think that's out of respect to the traditional view to schooling that we would like to enhance within our community. I love this question about culture because at New Haven, we have the extraordinary value of having 37 different languages, 42 different backgrounds in the context of just our staff. Then you bring in the inclusion of our families, and that number actually goes up to 52 different nationalities and 46 different languages. So we pride ourselves extensively in encouraging diversity, encouraging the opportunity for one's uniqueness to come forward, but we also love the recognition and the kind of full circle approach to finding the similarities in those unique perspectives. So culture for us is about setting up that family. We have worked really, really hard from a staffing perspective to make people feel not only qualified as they come in, but continuously educated, but also bringing forward for them the sense of pride of working for an organization like ours. So when families come in, they can see that many of them have reported that it's palpable. Right. So again, in the sense of being a unique character in the larger community, you join as a unique character into New Haven, but you do so with a sense of comfort and not, something that isolates you or keeps you separate. New Haven really tries to make a collaborative approach and relationship with our parents and caregivers. I think it's really important that you don't drop your child off in the morning and come and pick them up at the end of the day without knowing what's going on. Particularly because of the foundation and scientific principles of ABA, we're breaking down skills very methodically on a daily basis, but we're also tracking the progress. So a family should feel very comfortable in coming to one of our teachers at any stage, drop off, pick up, phone calls, emails, and really making sure that they understand the progress that's being made or the challenges that might be there in the context of progress. So interaction is pretty welcomed both ways. So again, a family can initiate or we initiate, but we have regular monthly meetings with families if they're able to do so. And again, respecting COVID right now, we would welcome families and caregivers into our facility to also observe and learn what we're doing. New Haven's, again, in that unusual circumstance, if you will, because of the autism and the complexity of needs sometimes that emerges, we do a lot of caregiver education as well. So we'll do lunch and learns, we'll do evening sessions, and we really try and collaborate with our families so that they can feel inclusive in our environment. And then the last thing that families definitively do for New Haven is participate in the context of fundraising and the charitable aspect of our work. So they might be donating hours back to the agency, they might be sourcing resources for us to use, or they're actually supporting us in finding donors, which is a great complement to what we try and do internally. So ABA stands for Applied Behaviour Analysis. So it is the scientific principles of changing behavior for socially significant outcomes. So let's break that down a little simpler. It really means helping students to learn skills so that they can be better in themselves and they can participate in their world. But it is the foundation of how we do our curricula and the ultimate pedagogy that we offer within our school. We, in our community, just like any other community, you get along with people in your context and sometimes you don't. It's really important for us to understand boundaries, which sometimes are less clear in the context of individuals with autism. That's first and foremost. So we do a lot of teaching for children in the sense of respect, boundaries, and confidence in general basic conflict resolution. But we obviously will involve our staff and our overseeing clinical coordinating team and families as well, right? If there is conflict between two children and we can't moderate it internally, we're going to involve the families and we're going to make sure that respectfully, using our privacy and consent backbone, that we get them involved to make sure that we can have better outcomes. There's no doubt children will be children. It doesn't matter, again, what school you're in or what environment you're in, they will challenge each other. But I think it is about setting it up realistically. And we do a lot of our work within the context of our training at our center to make sure that outdoor time and gym time and kind of flexible free play time is really interactive so that students start to learn the value and benefit of one another and where they can contribute to each other's joy of that day. So I think that that's pretty important. I think I would say first and foremost, encouraging, compassionate, dedicated, focused, fun. I could probably go on, but how about I stop it there? But I think what a great question. Really enjoy that. Passion and the dedication to getting the outcomes that we're looking for. So again, going back to that vision of growing potential and changing lives, our staff work hard. We do not do regular service days and we want our children to thrive. So in the context of COVID, you would have seen a little bit of communication in the sense of New Haven, where we say crisis doesn't mean we stop. It doesn't mean we step aside. It means we soar. And now together we can thrive. And that's something that we have really stood behind as we've all struggled through this challenging time of really re-emphasizing what's most important. What's important is personal development, personal fulfillment, and some sense of joy that we can find in the most complex of times. And I think if we can get through all of this as a community, goodness, we can get through all kinds of things. And I think at our school, we really try and also emphasize that for our families. And the passion comes through in that regard. We also have passion, though I have to admit, from our parents. We have very dedicated parents who want to see better outcomes for their students. And I try and, if you will, convert that passion sometimes to fundraising or to resource finding or to, again, informing our staff so that we can be even better in the services that we offer. So I kind of see passion as twofold, but it absolutely does stem from me too. You'll find me in there wee hours of the morning sometimes, but really trying to rile up the team today to go, okay, today's going to be a really, really good day. And we're going to see incredible joy in our families as we hand those children back over at the end of the day because they've seen progress happen. Yeah, I think joy for us is in the little steps more often than not. We probably emphasize our prioritization of success in scaffolding capacity. So it's not just that you have to wait for the entire skill to be built. We're going to celebrate those little wins along the way. But one of the greatest joys in our center is the first words that children speak. So we will have many, many children who come into our program who are non-vocal verbal and are unable to use their voice constructively. And you will often see a tear, and I may actually start crying just even talking about it in the context of the first words we hear children say. It's the most incredible, pure joy that one can ever see. And we hopefully don't take that away from families when we sometimes have it before they do. But boy, we're running out to that car pretty rapid to let them know, going, come, listen, you need to hear what your child just said today. And we try and set up the occasion for it to happen again. But that is absolute pure joy at our center. So connection is an interesting thing. Again, we might be connected about something external to us. So it might be an object, it might be a toy, it might be a person, but sometimes it's also connected just in the emotional connection. So, there are moments where it's the little wry little smile or it's the laughter that genuinely happens. I think when speech usually starts to commence, children often shock themselves because they're not prepared for what comes out. And they're certainly not prepared for the joy that their team are going to show. Again, one of the uniqueness at New Haven is that our teachers rotate through the students much more frequently throughout the day. So again, just in what we aim for generalization and maintenance of skills right from the get-go, they're seeing many different teachers. You've never seen jealousy, like jealousy comes out in the context of a teacher when one gets the word to happen and the next one can't get it to happen again. So there's a bit of a fun, kind of cat and mouse notion in the context of learning when students also get really clever and go, I might hold out just a little bit more just so I get something even better from you at the end of my reward ultimately for working. So there's some joy in that, but I think ultimately kids do connect, and they connect in the most extraordinary way that doesn't necessitate language or full communication at times. And I think we underestimate that as a community as a whole. But certainly in our center, we try and prioritize communication and context of connection wherever we can get it. We love being part of Etobicoke. So we're in South Etobicoke and we pride ourselves as being part of this community. We have a great working relationship with our local community center, Franklin Horner Community Center, and we share some of those events and social activities that happen throughout the year. We also have great relationships in the sense of some of the businesses. We have wonderful supports in some of our older children who start to learn how to engage with their community. So they're going to their local Tim Hortons or Starbucks or the corner store, and we've built some incredible relationships that way. We also have great relationships, and this is just the truth of the matter, in the sense of our staff going in every day often to get that cup of coffee or that newspaper or the whatever it is that they might need. And I think being interconnected with the community is so critically important. We've had enormous support from our government levels at all levels, so municipally, provincially, and federally as well. And I think our charitable aspect of what we do has really centered that prioritization within the Etobicoke community. But we're lucky in that we can call ourselves, Etobicokeans, if you will, but we can also be Torontonians. And that beauty is really, really broadening, I think, again, in the context that we have community members from across the GTAA. And when we do that, we also recognize that we have to participate in the broader context of community. But it's pretty exciting. We've learned a lot along the way of how servicing, you don't just service the nucleus that you're in, you actually service as a broader part of the community. And hopefully people feel we're equally participatory back at them. They give us a lot, but hopefully we give them a lot as well. My advice for a parent in your school search is follow your heart, but do the research. Make sure that you're aware of what your child will need in order for them to do their best. And sometimes that's a hard place to start. It really is about taking the time to look and see what resources are out there, ask the questions, but also be very upfront with whoever it is that you meet in the school to say, I'm not really sure. And if you come to New Haven and you say you're not really sure, I'm going to ask and probe with some specific questions that hopefully by the end of our conversation, you either know this is a good spot for my student and my child or not. That's the most important thing. And at the end of the day, as a parent, your gut really speaks to you. So if you can follow your gut instinct after doing all of the research that's necessary, and you know that you can keep on track with what your child is doing, you're going to do the best thing for your child. And we hope at some point that may be New Haven.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.